Please go ahead, sir.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to all of you. So today we have a webinar on climate responsive architecture by Assocham JM. So we are honored by eminent speakers regarding the topic climate responsive architecture. Like there is a building and the building must be responsive. How it will be responsive on climates, different weathers, different demographics, different parts of the world it might be. So how a building can be so much flexible that can accommodate all the climate responsive things. So it's a very interesting webinar. So we must know it, especially when we have this pandemic situation. So this topic is very much relevant for now. So today we have partners with TCI Renew Power. Thank you. And we have in association with Lovely Professional University, GNU Ludhiana Indo Global, Chandigarh Group of Colleges, and we are supported by ASRE Chandigarh chapter and FSAI. So this is going to be an interesting sessions. There are a lot of speakers we would like to hear from them. I would not take much time. So let me introduce. Hello. So I'll start with the agenda. Let me introduce Professor Charanjit Singh. He's a senior advisor, Association National Council for GEMS, founder, principal, creative group chairman of Smart Habitat Foundations. So I'll give a brief introduction about Professor Charanjit Singh. He is the founding principal architect of Creative Group. He has spearheaded some landmark sustainable projects in India, including airports, metros, railway stations, transit-oriented developments, and intermodal hubs. He created sustainable, walkable, and cyclable Indian sustainable smart cities of tomorrow. That's a great thing, right? He's being adorably called the airport king. So most recently, Creative Group executed the iconic terminal building for Kartarpur Corridor project, which was inaugurated by Sri Narendra Modi ji in November 2019. And besides being an architect, he's an urban planner and infrastructure expert. He's also a renowned author, academician, and education. Serves as the chairman of Smart Habitat Foundation and senior advisor, Association National Council for GEM. Thank you, sir. Welcome to all of you, and welcome you for your nice presentations. Over to you, sir.
Hello. Should I start?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay. Good morning, everybody, and namaskar and sat sri akal. It's really, the topic is though climate responsive architecture, but I think that the architecture starts from the climate itself, and architecture is the evolution of learning from nature. So, I mean, sometimes we really, I see that, from the Stone Age to today's, then the recognized civilization of Mohenjo-daro, Indus Valley civilization to other civilizations, the shelter is perhaps to protect from three things, that is water, rain, air, storms, and the sun, which is the extreme sun, maybe extreme cold. These are the three fundamental things from where we need to see that we protect ourselves. And from various eras, the cities are being developed, and perhaps also looking into the natural resource management. Basic communities which are need to be seen, and that has to be there. Once we're talking about all these things put together, and we say why the architecture has to be climatic responsive. That is the fundamental question. Why should the architecture has to only to be seen as climate? It has to be because the architecture is meant to really be towards the climatical responsive. Now when we talk about all these things put together, I would just walk through the various things which are happening around the cities developed climatically, and also the requirement aspirations. And through the various eras we've grown, and particularly in the hot and dry climate, we've seen how these cities like cities in practically in Rajasthan or Kutch and other areas have really gone into the climatical things, and climatic responsive and develop their cities in a manner which are climatic responsive, and other cities which were not climatically responsive have practically vanished. There are no people living there, and now what happens is, in the recent past, I would say that post-independence era, we've seen climatical responsive architecture from great masters like Lee Corbusier. The Chandigarh this is being webinar is being held by in Chandigarh, and I think the Chandigarh people must have experienced how predominantly strong the concept of climatical responsive architecture or a city could be, betterly being experienced than living in Chandigarh. And then also, post-independence era, I see some of the great masters like Joseph Allen Stein creating climatical responsive architecture. Then I see like Laurie Baker, Raj Wall, Kanmindeji, Charles Correa, Doshiji, all these great masters, their process of design starts from the climatical responsive architecture. But lately, and then, there are another generation like Anil Lal, Jatin Pandya, Kamath, who also played a major role in creating consciousness that let's create climatical responsive architecture. But lately, for the last, I would say, 25 years, with global empowerment, I am sadly say that the glass tower buildings, 0% climatical responsive architecture is like global empowerment, and which is we may call as modern architecture, but it is, I generally say, it's madness and a rapist architecture, which we are now seeing all over, and we are very proudly say, oh, this is a energy efficient building, but it's all outside glass, making it like a furnace, and then I say it's a green building. So this is one topic which needs to be addressed, but I would only come into the various things like it's like our own scriptures say, Pavan Guru, Pani Pita, Mata Dharta Mahat. Pavan is our guru. Pavan is the air and water and the earth, the mother earth. Sadly, we have polluted the water to an extent. Ganga bhi मैली कर दी, and हवा तो है ही है मैली. We live in a air most polluted city of the world in India. And lastly, पानी खराब हो गया, हवा खराब हो गई, और तीसरी चीज है हमारी मदर अर्थ, and we are raping the mother earth, and that is what is happening.
It's 11:15.
So what I want to express upon how we need to see that the architecture needs to respect the terrain, the topography, the natural resource management. These are all climatical responsive activities which generate from the nature. Let's see how our architecture is grown and grounded with nature and is responsive to the climate. Anything which is responsive to nature is responsive to the climatical conditions. Now, how do you see that the architecture is, it's a process of design where perhaps we need to see that building envelope or building placement or building positioning and sizing, and also the design of the building is very important. How various elements of climatical conditions could be created within the building by virtue of mutual shading or layering the building. So these are certain things, how we see that the placement and the shape and size of the building is very important. And today the technology can give is a tool which can also help me in seeing that so I can stimulate the building and I can see that it is practically minimizing the heat gain in the building and maximizing the daylight into the building. So these are various elements. I would rather put it that how the envelope of the building has to be shaped up, how the material application in the envelope of the building has to be seen, how the window wall ratio is to be seen, what is the material which needs to be there, which is insulated material, and it practically penetrates less of heat within the building, and all these passive ways of design respecting the climatical responsive will make the building absolutely comfortable. And secondly is the great masters, you see the climatical responsive architecture is layering the building, one layer to another layer to another layer, like putting a jolly, putting some shade, putting louvers, cutting the sun, and this layering, and with the landscape. Thirdly, landscape is very important. Then the mounts, the landscape, the various layering is like hot air coming near to the building, cutting through the various layers, get reducing the temperature. And once it comes near my window, it gets cooled down by another 10 to 15 degrees of temperature. So these are passive ways of, so that I can be climatically responsive to my design, where I play with the material application, the local material, the technology, all this put together, and I say that I am climatical responsive. So if you see any of the great masters building, when I see Lee Corbusier's work, I see the step terracing in the housing where I can sit in, the FSI was reduced, all these things are there, and I see the nice landscape, and I do not see the heat even in June when I am actually walking or traveling within Chandigarh. So these are certain fundamental things which I think is a learning process. We need to understand all this put together. And when I see the great master like Joseph Einstein's India International Center or India Habitat Center, when I see India International Center, why I'm going into all these things is that you see the layering, you see the brick jali, you see the other jali, you see how the building has been layered to cut the sun, and it automatically obviously become sustainable. And I perhaps need not become it as a centrally air conditioned giant, putting all that intelligent building management system put together, and then I say, oh, I have done this as a green building. So I am very happy to say this, that at SOCHM GEMS we probably have one of this very important component where we say climatic responsive architecture, and we practically mark out and make it essential that all these buildings which are SOCHM GEMS accredited has to have mandatory, various things which respects the climatical, like oscillation of the sun. How do you protect the west sun, the cleared west sun? How do you shade out the south sun? And how do you see that I get north glare free light in my building? And that too, and also through the various mutual shading of the blocks which I lay, so that the narrow blocks, narrow shading between the two blocks can also work in. So these are various components. And hopefully, I think we have a great panel where we will like to see various things put together. I also appreciate that the natural resource management plus conservation of water, energy management has to be there from micro to micro level. And that what happened in the various cities, maybe in you go to any city in Rajasthan, you find lakes, step wells, say kunds, bowlies, so that we restore, conserve our water, the storm water, and make it usable water for all of us. And today is the time, and the technology is there. Let's see the alternative ways of energy production is also there. All these factors, and let's see that when we're talking about climatic responsive architecture, we actually conclude where we say net zero, and net zero is beyond net zero, where we say that holistic architecture development into a sort of a net zero. I do not practically import or export. I am within my campus, self-contained, and that is how that I say that it is sustainable architecture and climatical responsive architecture. Solar is the most important, which needs to be seen, and the oscillation of the sun from east to west needs to be understood and has to be applied in a very technical manner, and which I say stimulation. Today I stimulate my building and I see that, and once I do climatical responsive architecture, I say 90% of my work is resolved, and I need not put all other things which is called active, where just by 10% more active participation, I can do everything. Lastly, I will conclude with that alternative ways of air cooling system, which is like air tunnels or other ways of application where I conserve my energy and make my buildings absolutely climatic responsive architecture. So it's like I'm just introducing the subject with these some of these issues, but I think the process has to be there, and it is a mandatory requirement for any architect when he design the building has to be climatic responsive. It will not be a cosmetic architecture. It's an organism of architecture which grows with the nature, with the climate, and it responds to the climate. Whereas what we are going today in a global way is that it's a copy-paste architecture which is evolving, and we say proudly, oh यार मैंने तो न्यूयॉर्क वाली बिल्डिंग दिल्ली में बना दी और ये डब्बा मैंने ग्लास का या बना दिया. So let's see how we proceed. Thank you very much, and thank you, Pankaj ji. Once you are there, and I really see it's a great effort. And minded, Pankaj ji, once an architect's vision is even born by an innovative engineer, it can create marvel. It can create, I would say, the intelligent buildings, and it will create a energy efficient buildings. And we, in case, seriously, there has to be a marriage between the innovative architecture and vision engineering, and clubbed together will really create a climatic responsive architecture. So thank you. Over to you, Pankaj ji. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. So that's very one. So the sentence, it's a mandatory requirement for the architects to make a climate responsive building. That was awesome. That set the tonality right away for this great webinar, which is so. Next slide, please. I would like to introduce Mr. Pankaj Thakur. He's the chairman of ASSOCHAM Council for Green and Eco-Friendly Movement. He's the president of Pankaj Thakur and Associates, a renowned MEP and green building consultant. He provided solutions in the fields of building engineering services, HVAC systems, indoor air quality, fire and life safety, electrical lighting, cooling, IBMS, security, renewable energy, and green building certifications. He has rich experience of about 40 years, successfully designed and coordinated more than 40,000 projects. So you can see the immensity of the number of green building concepts in his mind. He is associated with several prestigious projects, including the largest temple complex in Akshardham in Delhi, Nalanda University, Rajgir Bihar, hotels including Hyatt, Hilton, Marriott, Taj, Oberoi, Leela Hotel, and a lot of buildings, educational institutes, IITs, IIM, Birlas. He is currently the national chairman of ASSOCHAM Green Building Certification Council. We would like to hear from him. Welcome you, sir. Please enlighten us with the presentation. Thank you.
Can I get the rights for, can you share the screen, somebody?
Harish, please read the rights.
Sir, you have the right.
You are able to see my screen?
It's coming, sir. It's not clear yet, but no, not yet.
No?
No, sir.
Can you again de-share and give it back?
Yes, sure. Harish.
My apologies, sir.
That's fine, sir.
Rakesh, एक minute. एक minute. Are you able to see
Yes,
the
sir.
screen now?
Yes, sir. Can you make full screen?
So
Yeah.
first of
Thank
all,
you.
my apologies. I think we had a tough time in Gujarat, and since 2 days we have been facing the brunt of a climate change effect, which was a cyclone. I think all of you were aware, and I had to rush to my office last moment because my home did not have power. So my apologies. I was a bit late and not fully organized. But first, let me congratulate our Punjab team, our leaders, Surinder Bagaji, Moni ji, and all other associated team members who could ensure that we have 325 plus delegates attending this session at morning 11 o'clock. In fact, last 1.25 year, close to 15 months have been very, I would say, different for all of us. The way COVID has changed our way of life. We have been frequently on webinars and on digital media. So of late, I've seen that people have lost interest in coming to webinar, but this 300 plus, 325 plus attendees at this moment only shows the importance of this subject. And I'm blessed with Professor Charan Singh ji. I think it was a very inspiring tone setting he did for the session. Thank you, sir. You have been always our inspiration. And also my next speakers, Surinder ji, Nagendra ji, Anurag ji, Arvind ji, and Moni ji, I think, and of course, Dinesh ji. Thanks to you for taking out this time and ensuring that this important subject is addressed on ASSOCHAM GEM Forum. And my thanks goes to TCI Renew and also Lovely University for associating with ASSOCHAM GEM, and of course ASHRAE Chandigarh chapter, FSAI, and Chandigarh group of colleges, also Indo Global, for giving support to this important subject. Friends, I'm not an architect, I'm a MEP consultant and I'm an engineer. This subject is primarily addressed by architects, but of course the integration of engineering services is extremely important. And historical buildings in India have been traditionally designed with all sustainable features, and as Sir Charanjit Singh said, they enjoyed the advantages of embodied energy, and they have been built with superior craftsmanship materials that support long physical life. They have been well designed in terms of passive techniques, cooling, heating, lighting, ventilation, water harvesting, storage facility, and energy efficiency and water management have been both key aspects of sustainability. So friends, what we live with today and what we pass on to the future generation is going to be a key aspect. I think we all recognize this. If you see beautiful jalis in Rajasthan architecture, high quality fountains in the courtyards. If you see in our Gujarat itself, Adalajni Vav, that's stepped well. Several kinds of ventilation, which have ventilators which have been practiced, or a water body in Fatehpur Sikri, or you see the architecture of Jodhpur and Jaisalmer. These are all very passive design strategies and climate responsible architecture, which is standing several hundred years, standing stock. Look at the Taj Mahal, number of passive technologies to keep interiors of parts absolutely airy. Fantastic example which globe has comes from India, and we all have not taken advantage of such beautiful monuments and probably not integrated our architectural and engineering services. In fact, few days back, rather just 72 hours back, to a Lothal project which is Kami Gujarat, the I was proposing a radiant system, and the architect was saying, Pankaj, what will happen if it doesn't work? I had to give him example that look at Taj Mahal, it is standing tall for several hundred years. So why you are fearing? So many architects don't want to even try these technologies which were existing for hundreds of years. Unfortunately, we have not integrated into our architecture. Look at Taj Mahal, Hawa Mahal at Jaipur. Such a beautiful Venturi effect. We have not taken advantage of such Venturi effects. Probably we have not scientifically analyzed how this jet velocities got created. Even a place like Jaipur, which was hot and dry, and how the cooling effect gets created with Jali design. And this requires a lot of research work. And I'm sure the generation next can take full advantage of it. Some maybe last 25 years, we have not practiced it, but I am very confident that new generation, new architects are going to learn from our mistakes, what we have not done in last 25, 30 years, and ensure that these heritage examples which we have in India are nicely implemented in modern architecture. Imagine a fort of Amber Fort of Jaipur, 400 years back, there was no power. How the water was getting lifted without power to 400 feet above. Such beautiful examples are available. Look at this, how the wind energy was harvested there. Look at the Patwan Ki Haveli, Jaisalmer, again a very hot and dry climate, how the courtyards and the stacking effect created this beautiful effect. I belong to Indore. Near Indore, we have a beautiful place called Mandu. Mandu is a place which is 2,500 feet above the earth level, and there is no source of water. The river Narmada is 2,000 feet below this Malwa plateau, and the entire rainwater which is coming onto this, you get about 40-45 inches rain there, but it is so beautifully channelized, and there are so beautiful examples of rainwater harvesting that I think we don't require to go to the outside world. This is India which can teach them. And look at the water channels, water bodies, even the courtyards, everywhere there are extraordinary examples of rainwater harvesting, whether it is Baj Bahadur Mahal or courtyard tanks. It's fantastically done. So friends, passive technology take advantage of local environment, maximize the comfort and minimizing the energy uses, and it adverses any climate change responses basically. It has been seen that the passive technologies like ventilation, windows and wall shading devices, natural cross ventilation, trees, water bodies, courtyards and verandas, thick walls are very effective in maintaining the indoor comfort condition. The passive design principles should be developed and clubbed with current advanced technologies to promote sustainability is what at ASSOCHAM we are promoting. So integrating evaporative cooling concept, as Charanjit Singh ji just mentioned, with wind towers is found to be a very effective and reducing indoor temperature. A combination of trombe wall, thermal insulation and cool roof may achieve sustainable saving in heating and cooling. Friends, we have several new examples which are coming up, but I really feel that these examples are not to the extent that India is, we all know that 70% of India needs to be built by 2030. And if you see these examples, like one which I was very fortunately associated with this at the primary concept stage with Nimish Patel Saab. He is no more we lost him a couple of months back. A fantastic architect who designed the Uday Vilas Palace of Oberois in Udaipur, and this is a live example. He did it 20 years back, adopting the latest technologies with passive architecture. This building consumes just 1/9, and this is standing for 14-15 years now. So, but how many such examples exist? Very few. I think the new generation which is listening to this and delegates must learn from several good examples which exist in country, and we should ensure our every building which comes up in future has passive technologies. So with this vision in mind, ASSOCHAM GEM is giving a lot of emphasis on passive architecture, heritage in architecture, climate response architecture in our program. And with 400 chambers, 4.5 lakh members, we want to ensure that our country compete business globally. And I think the built environment is going to play an extremely important role. And with this, ASSOCHAM has taken green initiative to care of Mother Earth. And with that intention, CGEM has been formed and now working very actively. Our program starts from GEM 1 to GEM 5. GEM 1 being lowest with 40 to 49 points at the yardstick of 135 points. And GEM 5 is given when you exceed 105 points. Our program includes sustainability, energy, water efficiency, more green areas, indoor air quality, daylight, fresh air, and human comfort. And this is the only program in the world which also talks about fire and life safety. And you would see today's program is also supported by FSSAI. And we believe that the building has to be sustainable, energy efficient, should maintain good indoor air quality, but also should be safe from fire and life safety wise. So we have special credit. So GEM is continuously improved to align with United Nations SDG 2030. GEM is the first comprehensive rating system in the world to recognize sustainability as a whole, then incorporating few components of it. Friends, we have started getting recognition from various state governments, and this is a testimony that recently Rajasthan government has taken GEM along with IGBC, USGBC, and GREA certification, and extending all the facilities which they extend to other green building certification. And I'm sure under the able leadership of Surinder Baga Saab and our other team members, we are going to get this recognition in Punjab very soon. I'm confident, sir, and looking forward for these days. You can look at how Rajasthan government has recognized this, and this is also now recognized by CRESIL, the organization which is putting GEM along with the IGBC, USGBC, and GREA certification program. So, and we do believe that any green building certified building project, first of all, if it is start point, then there are no additional cost. But if at all for technologies you are putting any additional cost, surely you will get a payback within 3 to 4 years. And friends, these buildings are meant for 50 years. So we must understand that this payback of 3-4 years is nothing, because you are going to save years after years. And this is what is sustainability is all about. Friends, we are working like today's program is happening with the ASHRAE Chandigarh chapter. We have a good understanding with the various other ASHRAE chapters in India. ISHRAE, Smart Habitat Foundation, of course, is led by Charanjit Singh ji, and he's present with us. SECI, the Solar Society. GSES is a corporate society members where they are the facility managers. NIRI, the Indian Institute of Architects, NAREDCO, FSCI, and ISLE. So there are several organizations with whom we have been working. Also, IAQA logo is not being seen, but it is also Indoor Air Quality Association from USA. So we have international societies and Indian societies. Friends, there are several good projects in all our domain, whether it is industrial, pharmaceutical, universities, software parks, industrial parks have been done by FSSAI, have been certified by GEM certification program. You can see here ITC Green Center, Siemens building, Sri City in Andhra Pradesh, to across the country. We have a beautiful example of various projects. You can see here the buildings from universities. There are multiple universities, and very interestingly, the Kartarpur land port terminal in Punjab, which is done by none other than our good friend, and I think sir probably did not mention this, Charanjit Singh ji and his son and his team did this wonderful project and gifted to our country, is also a GEM certified, GEM 5 certified. The highest rating has been given to that important project. Friends, our clients are very proud to put this in certificates and planks in their directors' cabins or reception. And we have now 1,000 plus GEM certified professionals, thanks to Neeraj and his team. We are continuously giving this education free of cost. These exams can be taken digitally anytime with an open book concept, just 90 minutes exam. So please, to the all young students who are attending today's program, please attend one of this session, which is free of cost. Then at your convenience, you can apply and become GEM certified professional. Start putting that into your profile and bio, and to the young engineers onto your visiting card. I think this will bring a lot of fame to you. Friends, we are here to create our vision and take it to the universities, take it to the students, because we know that you are the future of our country. We have a mission of 100. We have already covered 70 plus universities, and we are going to soon touch these 100 universities. During this pandemic, our team has done fantastic work, whether it is creating guidelines, which was given to 29 states and 6 union territories, or creating a new program with the World Bank and the Bureau of Energy Efficiency on performance contracting, which we have done for air conditioning, which we did for electrical, and now for the lighting and other domain, we are going to take it forward. Friends, we want to be present across the country, and my friend Tusharji from Rajasthan chapter is helping me out to go to various chapters, and currently we have 9 chapters in the country, but soon we will have 20 chapters. During this pandemic, we covered more than 8,000 registrations, 30,000 plus seminars. We signed up 13 MOUs, 70 MOUs with universities, with 85 webinars. So that only shows the fantastic work. Like today, my Punjab team is doing similar work is happening across the country. So friends, let's please to create a green and environmentally sustainable country. And to the architects, please, and my young architects, that must look at climate responsive architect. In fact, Charanjit Singh, my younger daughter, master, the special program from MIT. I was telling her that, you should have looked at India. Why did you go to MIT from Purdue? But then she joined UNEP and doing work on climate change. And her specialty is on the sudden change in climate of climate change. So this is a very important subject that is going to address. In fact, I, for the first time in my life, experienced 100 kilometers speed in my own city thought of. So I think tomorrow's building need to address these climate changes also as a responsive architecture. How do you capture? We have seen monuments like Taj are standing there for without any interruption. And our buildings, I saw many buildings got without power. They were helpless. They were not able to operate. So the sustainability is what is going to matter in such changes also. So friends, once again, thank you to the Punjab team. Thanks, Moni. Thanks, Surenderji, and entire all the speakers who have given their time today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. That's really an eye-opener, right? Enlightening presentations, passive design strategy. Yes, passive design strategy. In GEM program also, we have a dedicated sections. We have a dedicated principle for passive design strategies. And this is an imminent responsibility. And with the responsibility comes the actions, and the climate responsive design is very much need of the hour. Like our speakers already emphasized on it. On the basis of that, I would like to go to the next presentations. Harish, please. Mr. Surinder Baga, Chairman, GEM Punjab Chapter, Principal Architect, Sakar Foundations. Architect Surinder Baga is the Chairman, ASSOCHAM GEM Punjab Chapter, and Principal Architect, Sakar Foundations. Welcome you, sir. His projects were exhibited at the 5th Asian Congress of Architects held at Lahore in Pakistan and architect exhibition organized by Singapore Institute of Architects. His Baptist Church at Chandigarh is selected by Ministry of Non-Conventional Energy Sources and TERI as one of the best 41 energy efficient buildings in India. So you can find the immensity, the responsibility that he has in building climate responsive designs. He got several awards from HUDCO, Architectural Associations, London and Indian Concrete Institute. He is also a co-author of a lot of books, Modern Architecture in India, New Indian Homes, and Lee Corbusier and Pierre's generate footprints on the sands of Indian architecture. He worked as chairman of IIA, Chandigarh Punjab chapter for 2 terms, 2008 and 2012. He worked as chairman of IIT Publications Board and editor of Journal of Indian Institute of Architects from 2013 to 2015. He has been nominated as councillor in Chandigarh Municipal Corporation for the term 2012 to 2016. He worked as member of High Power Finance and Contract Committee of Chandigarh Municipal Corporation. He was chairman of Chandigarh Municipal Corporation's Committee for Buildings and Roads. So you can see the climate responsible buildings, how much important for him. So currently he is a member of Advisory Committee of India's Home Minister of Union Territories. Welcome you, sir, once again. And over to you for your nice presentation.
Thank you, Shubha. Morning to all faculty members and all speakers and all my friends, all students. Special thanks to all the participating colleges and participating organizations. Today, I am going to briefly talk about my experience in my knowledge, brief knowledge about climate responsive architecture. I will be taking cue from Shah Saab's talk, and I will be endorsing what Darkar sir has spoken. I think Darkar sir has more knowledge on architecture than most of us, and he has spoken really well on architecture, though this is not his basic subject. We are unable to share our presentation. Can you help us, Shubha? Please give us permission.
Done, sir. You have the presenter, right?
Yeah. Since time is short, I will rush through the presentation because many other speakers are in the pipeline. I'm going to talk about climate responsive architecture.
So sorry to disturb you, sir. Can you make it full screen mode? We cannot. Yeah.
Okay, full screen.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. Yes. In most of the historical religious scriptures, there is a mention about preserving the climate, saving the environment, and you know, these are the lines from the Holy Purana. It lays a lot of emphasis on trees. Likewise, as Shah Saab has said, there are many verses, many shlokas in Holy Guru Granth Sahib which are emphasizing on saving water and saving earth. Similar sentiments are written in the Holy Quran. There are many ayahs which are saying that we should save the motherland. And Bible is also versifying the same kind of wisdom to the mankind, that we should save the fertile land. Only then we can eat its fruit and enjoy this earth. And if we have a quick look at the historic architecture of India, in the Mohenjo-daro township, there was a lot of focus on respecting the topography and the wind direction and the local materials. Even there was a drainage system which was properly laid down. You know, it was we know this was a 2600 BC project. It was so ancient, and still the people were so advanced. And in Havelis in Jaisalmer, as Mr. Dakar was saying, we have used local materials, we have used courtyard planning, we have used these jerokhas and jalis to protect the buildings. And nearly 200 years of the Mughal Empire, architecture was quite excellent in India. And there was you can see the landscaping of Taj Mahal, and in South India in 17th century, Jahangir Palace was built in Orcha, which has thick walls, and all the windows are protected with the shajjas and projections. And this is the kind of architecture India was having. And when Corbusier came to India to design Chandigarh city, he designed this open hand monument to give the wind direction. This is the symbol of Chandigarh. This is the emblem of Chandigarh. It rotates like a weathercock, and this gives the wind direction to the residents of Chandigarh. They can notice this hand movement and sense the air movement in Chandigarh area. And he instructed all his junior architects to study the local climate and design the buildings accordingly. And in this High Court building, which is oriented in the wind direction, perpendicular to the Shivalik Hills, he experimented with the double roof and a combination of horizontal and vertical louvers. This to protect the buildings from the harsh climate. And in the middle of 90s, we have started making these glass-clad buildings. As Shah Sahab has said, this is the kind of architecture we are giving to our nation, and we are spoiling the environment. We are damaging the Mother Earth. This is the not kind of architecture India needs. And I will briefly talk about some new technologies. This is the solar tree. When we have less area and we need more light, and this tree is designed by Mr. Ross Grove from Venus. He has invented this solar tree, and in many parts of India, this is being installed. Professor Dixon from America has launched a concept of vertical farming, and he has shown this. He has demonstrated his concept of urban farming in a Tokyo project, which is designed by a New York-based firm. And in this 9-story building, he has demonstrated how we can grow vegetable and fruits. You can see in the elevation of this building. And another South African architect, Sean Killa, has designed this Bahrain World Trade Center, which is about 800 feet tall, 2 towers connected together with 3 bridges. And all the 3 bridges are supporting the wind turbines. The wind turbines are as big as 80 feet or so. And they can be repaired through these bridges itself. And architect claimed that 15% of the total energy consumption of this building can be met with these wind turbines. This is the close-up of these wind turbines. Then, regarding this is the new concept of wind tree. There's a misconception that when the wind moves at a low speed, it cannot generate any electricity. The engineers and scientists have come up with a new concept which says even if the wind speed is as low as 7 km/h, it can generate energy. And this is the wind tree which is recently invented. In a building in Germany, the projections and the chhajas of the building are designed with solar panels. These black color chhajas are made of solar panels. Another building in Hong Kong, which is where the glazing is made of solar panels. In Finland, this building, the architect has experimented the idea of having all the railings made of solar panels. I'm trying to highlight that how innovatively architects are using solar panels in their projects. And the conclusion of the talk is that India is divided into different climatic zones, and each zone has its own guidelines. We should adopt new technologies and we should design the buildings suitable to the local climatic conditions. We should not follow the Western concepts, because by copying Western concepts, we will be damaging the Mother Earth. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. So the emphasis was on the 5 elements of nature, as you can clearly see. So Mr. Vaga gave the clear indications from Matsya Puran, Guru Granth Sahib, Quran, and Bible, and he started with the great design called Weathercock in Chandigarh. Then how everything was designed that the vertical things can be used also. The solar, you call it vertical framing. I worked in the World Trade Center, Bahrain, with the same construction contractor would build this World Trade Center. So yeah, I could completely relate to all these things, the architects and the beautifully designed passive design strategies, and plus the urban strategies coupled with this kind of solar and vertical farming, the different kinds of concepts. And now we'll move to our next presentations. One moment, please. Professor Nagendra Narayan, HOD, Lovely School of Architecture and Design, LPU, Punjab. Professor Narayan is HOD, Architecture. He has about 1.5 decade architectural academic excellency. He was awarded Gaurav Samman and Rajya Ratna Samman in the year 2004 and 2008, respectively, for his interest in social and educational work. He was also awarded Gold Medal for Outstanding Performance in a mark in the year 2012. He is awarded A3 Foundation Teacher Award 2015 in Architecture for outstanding contribution for the architectural fraternity for the nation by the legendary architect of India, Architect S.D. Sharma. India, he is honored by Srijan Book of World Records. You can understand the immensity of it. A unit of Rashtriya Srijan Avigya Union on January 25, 2020, which is very recently, for his outstanding contribution to wire the people of India about the heritage and leading the global movement, My Heritage, My Pride. And he's also the General Secretary of International Leadership Development Council, New Delhi. So, Professor Narayan, we would like to hear from you, sir. Please enlighten us with your presentation. Over to you. Thank you. Maybe you are on mute right now. Can you unmute yourself, please?
Am I audible, sir?
Yeah, right now, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. So, very good morning to all our respected panelists, expert speakers, organizers, and dear participants. First of all, thank you very much to SHM Punjab chapter team and ASDE Chandigarh chapter team to organize such a wonderful session and for the invitation to speak something about climate responsive architecture. Today, when we're talking about the climate responsive architecture means architecture that is climate sensitive, right? So now what we are doing, today's architects and builders are increasingly focused on how to create more buildings, structures that have less impact on the environmental, natural environmental. And other important thing is that how we can adopt the climate responsive architecture that is unique design practice centered on creating buildings that function in lockstep with the local climate, not in spite of it. So in a given region, when we're talking about the climate, that's play very instrumental role. So climate is the predominant weather, just as flora and fauna adapt to their surroundings and creates sustaining ecosystems. Architects should design the buildings that respond to the climate, and we are living rather than consuming. So climate change is one of the greatest challenges faced by the human society in this particular century, I mean, in 21st century. So to tackle this type of, changes and what about the other things, we need to adopt the climate responsive architecture. And what about the important goal after adopting this? When we adopt the climate responsive architecture, is to create comfortable interiors while reducing the building's reliance on artificial energy. climate responsive building design reflects the weather conditions in the precise area where the building is constructed. The design utilizes data on the particular regions, weather patterns, and accounts for factors like what about the season in that particular area, intensity of the sun, wind, rainfall, and the humidity. These are the factors that are play very instrumental role on this particular thing. Several elements, besides this one, several elements play a very instrumental role for the building synergy, which is based on its site-specific conditions. And for example, the building envelope is an important mediator between the indoor and outdoor conditions. Envelopes in different climatic zones require different conditions and different type of things like unwanted energy loss, local building codes. So these are the things that we must adopt, and true climate responsive architecture goes well beyond adherence of the particular code and a smart glazing system. So this is the things that play very instrumental role for the climate responsive architecture. And but the important thing is that there are a lot of consideration, and our earlier speaker, respected Charanjit Shah sir, Pankaj Dhankar sir, and respected Baga sir, very nicely explained about giving the different type of example from history to present condition. Obviously, what are the basic 5 elements that play very instrumental role, and we can, in very simple word, we can explain that that particular 5 elements. Bhagwan, Bha, Ga, Va, Na. Bhav se Bhumi, Bhumi means earth. Ga se Gagan, Gagan means a sky. Va se Vayu, Vayu means air. A se Agni, fire. And Na, Ne se Neer means Jal. So these are the particular 5 elements that play very instrumental role. So now I am just giving some enlist. We have just enlisted for this particular lecture. What about the step-to-step climate responsive architecture? To design comfortable and energy efficient homes and buildings, climate sensitive architecture considers what about the different type of weather factors like sun path and solar positions, wind, rainfall, humidity, etc., and temperature. What about the historical weather patterns, etc. So these are the conditions. So some we have enlisted, sir, how we can achieve this and adopt this climate responsive architecture. So these are the some points. We have less time, so we just going through. The important thing is that conduct a site inspection. How we can analyze the particular sites that play very instrumental role. So weather patterns, what about the atmosphere, what about the soil types, what about the wind speed and direction, what about the heating degree, dates, and sun path, etc. We consider all particular factors of the climatic conditions, and according to that one, we also find out that what about the water flows, habitat, and geology of that particular area. So before designing the particular building, where this exercise must be done under the expert of this particular thing, and after that one we will practice. So this is important strategy that takes into account the best sustainable management practices. Other important thing is that plan the building's layout on the particular ground. Using an integrative design approach, decide the most suitable position for the building is to locate on the particular ground, on the particular sites. That's play very instrumental role. So access to the particular roads, keeping at least 10 feet clear of any type of watersheds and floodplain area, and this is the general conditions. According to that one, we can say the position of the building can be also determined by determining which trees and other natural geological features should be avoided to control and adopt the climate responsive architecture. Other third one is consider the sun while making your plans. This means that we also consider the particular sun path. That is also very important. Since we all know that light place the placement of the particular structure according to the cardinal directions. This is the main aim to optimize the amount of sun that hit a space in winter using less energy mechanically, and while reducing the amount of sun that cooks the building in the summer using less energy to mechanically heat. So this is the particular thing that is important consideration. Other important thing is that considerations is consideration of the opening. I mean, consideration for windows and other openings is also very important role. South facing facades should have a window area that is proportional to their orientation, and double or triple pane glass with low E coating. Low E coating that's play very instrumental role should be used for the particular glazing. So after adopting this low E value, during the hottest month, it reduces the amount of heat transmitted into a space. While when we consider this thing, if we can't care this type of things, then heat will increases in the particular inside. Other important thing is building for a specific geographic particular area. So where we are designing the building, what about the geographical conditions? We can't design the building in same way like building for the Rajasthan estate and building for the Jammu and Kashmir estate. So this is the important insulation, vapor barriers and air barriers, etc. We must be, consider that depend on the particular weather project is in the cold and different type of hot and humid south or the airy desert when constructing the building envelope. So this is the important consideration that we will take. Other important thing is that reduce the size of the building's footprint. How we can reduce the building footprints, that is also important. So we can construct according to the need. We can't construct the more area that consume more particular energy and more particular light. So other thing is natural ventilation is incorporated into the design process. Our expert speakers earlier, expert speakers having given the different type of example like Hawa Mahal and some other places. So this is the important consideration for the particular climate responsive architecture. Second last is relax the occupants' expectations of the particular comfort. This is very important. Everyone, architect, engineers, and the professionals working in the building construction, we all are doing for the occupants' comfort. So expectations of the comfort by the users is very important. So we will consider this type of thing. That is very important. Other important thing is modeling and analyze the particular concept. Designers, architects, builders can and should use energy modeling, lighting models, etc., daylighting experiments that's control the particular energy. And when we consider this type of thing, the key to holding cost down when finding the best design solution is to be provided the right team members with modeling experience and tools. So we can use this type of expertise. And the last point is how we can make the carry out several type of iterations in the particular building. So depend upon the particular conditions, pre-design for different design process. It will take several passes of only the simple layouts of the design team to zero in on the lowest energy usage possible. So these are the particular things that if we can adopt, we can utilize the particular climatic responsive architecture. Keep going through the trials, and our professionals, architects, and other things can. So in the last, we can say that climate responsive architecture is essential needs of for professional to adopt in the particular building to minimize the energy and to provide the comfort to our users. Thank you very much to give me the chance to speak in this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Narayan. That is really great. I really like the part of Bhagavan, making it 5 elements of nature. Bhagavana, like that was awesome.
Yes.
And you also elaborated the steps to make climate responsive design step by step, both from the urban things and classic examples. And since the pre-console design aspects and the integrative design approach, you emphasize on that. Thank you very much. So we would go to the next presentations right now. Architecture Anurag Vajpayee, co-chairman of ASSOCHAM GEM UP chapter, director Green Tree Global. Welcome you once again. He is the co-founder and director and head of sustainability division at Green Tree Global and co-chairman of ASSOCHAM GEM Uttar Pradesh chapter. Mr. Anurag has extensive experience of 14 years with core expertise on energy simulations, energy efficiency implementations, you can say. His work assignments include working with BEE, NTPC, BHEL, CPWD, AAI, USAID, UNDP, CLSP, PWD, NBCC, SDS, railways, metros. He's virtually everywhere. And he is a certified measurement and verification professional by AEE. He's an ECBC expert empaneled with Bureau of Energy Efficiency. Besides, he also serves as a board member of International Building Performance and Simulation Associates. So you can see when we are making the climate responsive designs, how much simulation is important. We learned from all the speakers before. And he is a member of core committee of ECBC, ASSOCHAM GEM, and FSA and SIM India. He has previously worked with Siemens Power and USAID ECO 3 project. Welcome, sir. Please enlighten us with your presentations.
Thank you so much, Shubha for the introduction. Hope I'm audible.
Yeah, you are audible. Complete.
Thank you so much. Thank you, ASSOCHAM GEM, FSAI, ASHRAE, Chandigarh chapter. And certainly, when we have heard already Professor Charanjit Singh sir, Pankaj Dharkar ji, Bagha sir, then Balkar Singh ji is not there. Then Professor Nagendra Narayan ji, a very interesting presentation, and also the acronym that he have used for reflecting the 5 elements. When we speak in that August gathering of the panelists at number 5 or 6, I'm sure like we have to be a bit more strategic in terms of what to speak as well. Now, the topic is very, very close to all of us and very interesting as well, climate responsive architecture. So in terms of the dialogue or the discussion point that I have selected is close to, let's say, residential development, because I believe that most of the example that Bagha ji or Charanjit sir, Pankaj sir have described and demonstrated, they are mostly demonstrating the bigger buildings, and that is what we have been seeing across the globe as well. If I put my dialogue in the 3 points simply, then I'll try to discuss about the context. This is my first point. The second point will be the current practices and the gaps in terms of why and how we are not following the climate responsive architecture in the mass scale housing projects or any development which requires the attention of an architect. And the third point is the way forward in my perspective, certainly. Now, the first point, when we look at the historical development, all of us have already highlighted that how the older buildings, they have been incorporating the climate responsive architecture. And if we look at the historical times, then we refer classical era, early modern, modern, and the contemporary. So early modern and modern, where we have seen a lot of buildings which are already available at this
Host contact. We have lost contact somewhere.
Is it from my side or is it Anurag's side? I cannot understand. Is it
Probably from Anurag's side, sir.
okay? Okay. So
Probably from his
we'll
side.
wait for a minute. Then
Yeah, I think he's trying to rejoin.
okay. Meanwhile, if anyone wants to kind of illuminate with us kind of stories or kind of case studies, that will be great. If anyone is interested. Yeah. Mr. Dhingra, if you can, is that fine?
If you can give me the right side, sir is also back.
Okay, sure.
I'm sorry,
By the
Shubha.
way, he's back.
Oh, that's
there's
fine.
a
That's fine.
internet.
Yeah, he's back.
Okay, no worries. Harish, please give the share right to Mr. Anurag.
So I was basically mentioning about the historical times, and then there was a power cut in my society. And then when we look at the classical, early modern, and modern times, we looked at all the palaces. Even Pankaj sir has also mentioned Taj Mahal. We certainly look at the high volume and high ceiling as a phenomena in terms of the passive architecture in the larger public buildings. And that is where we see, if we look at all the temples that were built even today's time also, then most of the temples which were built earlier with the intention that they'll give the comfort to the travelers, they were having the openings in terms of the cross ventilation, and without any specific design, mechanical design procedures or the let's say equipment, they were all very much comfortable because of these passive design features. They were part of this. Now, when we look at the overall aspect, जब हम लोग आज के टाइम में पहले की बनी हुई बिल्डिंग्स को देखते हैं, फॉर एग्जांपल पैलेसेस, नाउ दे हैव गॉट कन्वर्टेड टू द रिजॉर्ट्स और होटल्स आल्सो. इन दो सॉर्ट ऑफ सिनेरियोज, पहले जब बिल्डिंग्स बन रही थी उस समय नेचुरल वेंटिलेशन और नेचुरल प्रोसेसेस के अलावा कुछ और प्रोसेस इन्वेंशन में नहीं थी. हम लोग जब एयर कंडीशनिंग सिस्टम्स की बात करते हैं, दे वर हार्डली डिजाइंड एंड गॉट इम्प्लीमेंटेड 30-35 years or 40 years बैक ओनली. उसके पहले की जो बिल्डिंग्स हैं, मीन्स कंटेम्प्रेरी टाइम के पहले की जो बिल्डिंग्स हैं, वो सब के सब नेचुरल प्रोसेस या नेचुरल आर्किटेक्चर या पैसिव आर्किटेक्चर के थ्रू ही डिजाइन एंड बिल्ट हुई थी. आज हम जब उनको कन्वर्ट करते हैं पैलेसेस, होटल्स में, सर्टेनली वी लुक एट द कंफर्ट विच इज रिक्वायर्ड फॉर द पीपल टू लिव इन. जैसे परचेजिंग पावर बढ़ी है, लोगों का नंबर बढ़ा है. नाउ कमिंग टू द लोगों का नंबर या पीपल पॉपुलेशन, हम लोग 1800 सदी में या 1800 टाइम में हम लोग 1 billion इन पॉपुलेशन थे. In 1927 we were 2 billion, and now in 2023 we will be 3 billion, let's say 8 billion people on the earth. और सभी लोगों की जो पॉपुलेशन डेंसिटी है वो बढ़ रही है, साथ में उनकी इकोनॉमिकल स्ट्रेंथ या परचेजिंग पावर भी बढ़ रही है. दे ऑल रिक्वायर मोर लग्जूरियस लाइफस्टाइल. उनकी जो अडेप्टेबिलिटी है वो भी धीरे धीरे कम हो रही है. और सभी लोग जो कि घर में रह रहे हैं, सभी लोगों को नेचुरल वेंटिलेशन या क्रॉस वेंटिलेशन के साथ साथ एयर कंडीशनिंग रिक्वायरमेंट भी उनकी एक अहम रिक्वायरमेंट की तरह कन्वर्ट हो रही हैं. नो दिस इज द एरिया वेयर वी सी जो पहले के टाइम में जो पैलेसेस और पब्लिक बिल्डिंग्स बनती थी, जो लोग नवाब या किंग्स ये लोग जब बनाते थे, आज के टाइम में वो बिल्डिंग्स इंडस्ट्रियलिस्ट या पॉलिटिशियंस या बड़े लोग बनाते हैं. बट नाउ द ओनली थिंग विच इज गेट चेंज्ड इज द गवर्नेंस और जो पॉलिटिकल सिस्टम है, विच ऑल्सो रिक्वायर्स टू टेक केयर ऑफ द कॉमन और नॉर्मल पीपल as well. This is where we see the current practices and the gaps, which is the second point of the discussion today. कि किस हिसाब से हमारी जो करंट प्रैक्टिसेस हैं या जो गैप्स हैं वो कैसे अवेलेबल हैं, क्या प्रैक्टिसेस हैं जो कि गवर्नमेंट की तरफ से रिकमेंडेड हैं. फॉर एग्जांपल, अगर हम सब लोगों को घर की रिक्वायरमेंट है बिकॉज ऑफ द पॉलिसी कि होम फॉर ऑल सभी के लिए चाहिए, तो पीएमएवाई के अंतर्गत, प्रधानमंत्री आवास योजना के अंतर्गत 20 मिलियन हाउस होल्ड का डिक्लेरेशन किया गया. वो बात अलग है कि अभी तक सिर्फ 60-70,000 जो घर हैं वो दिए गए हैं, बट स्टिल द एम वाज क्लियर दैट वी नीड टू डेवलप द रूफ ओवर अ हेड फॉर एवरीवन. और इंटेंशन अगर क्लियर है तो ये भी एक इम्पॉर्टेंट पार्ट है कि किस हिसाब से हम लोग डिजाइन करें जो सभी के लिए कंफर्टेबल हो. नॉट दैट everyone will be given the house or the envelope which is let's say wall, roof and the windows, बट सभी को सिर्फ एनवलप दे करके उनका कंफर्ट अवेल कराना की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी भी कहीं ना कहीं हमारी एज ए डिजाइनर, गवर्नमेंट की एज ए फैसिलिटेटर है ही है. और इसीलिए शायद एग्जांपल्स भी देख लें या क्लाइमेट रिस्पॉन्सिव डिजाइन के हिसाब से भी देख लें. दिस इज समथिंग विच इज अ चैलेंज बिकॉज सभी लोगों के घर में आज के टाइम में एसी, मैकेनिकल सिस्टम्स के अलावा नेचुरल वेंटिलेशन का जो प्रोसेस है वो नहीं हो पा रहा है. बड़ी बिल्डिंग्स में तो बहुत सारी एग्जांपल्स वी हैव सीन. Also know that architects who are conscious enough in terms of the design, they will certainly take care of those aspects. Almost like a couple of decades before, I myself have worked with architect Charles Correa. And then this is how we have also learned that these are the steps which are to be included in the design for small building to the mid-size building or to the bigger size of building. But when we look at the implementation perspective, we always look at these passive design features or the aspects only in the let's say these programs or in terms of the bylaws they are mentioned, but practically in general population is not aware. They are not aware about what are the passive features that they need to adhere to while designing the buildings, while implementing the building. For example, if we look at the all development अथॉरिटीज जो हमारे अर्बन लोकल बॉडीज हैं या हमारे टाउन एंड कंट्री प्लानिंग के जो प्लानिंग डिपार्टमेंट्स हैं, इम्प्लीमेंटेशन डिपार्टमेंट्स हैं, सबके यहाँ पे जो डेवलपमेंट अथॉरिटीज हैं वो लोग प्लॉट काटते हैं, घर बनाते हैं एंड देन सेल इट ऑफ टू द नॉर्मल पब्लिक थ्रू द टेंडरिंग प्रोसेस. नाउ एक एग्जांपल लेते हैं कि बाघा साहब का जो घर है वो ईस्ट फेसिंग है एंड नाउ ढींगरा साहब का जो घर, जो कि उनके अभिन्न मित्र हैं, वो बिल्कुल ठीक सामने रहते हैं जो कि वेस्ट फेसिंग है. नाउ this is a very simple logic. If we have the same let's say typical housing or the row houses or the villas which are having a very typical design practice, not even taking care of the basics of basic in terms of the orientation, I'm sure like ढींगरा साहब को हमेशा ही 50 साल तक उस घर का जो बिजली का बिल है वो ज्यादा देना पड़ेगा. It is not only about the बिजली का bill. I'm sure like he can always afford that, but it is also related to a lot of back-end supply chain mechanisms. उसके हिसाब से इलेक्ट्रिसिटी की रिक्वायरमेंट ज्यादा होगी, लेट्स से ट्रांसमिशन डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन लाइंस पे लोड ज्यादा बढ़ेगा, पावर के रिक्वायरमेंट के हिसाब से पावर प्लांट की रिक्वायरमेंट ज्यादा होगी. तो इफ वी लुक एट द पर्सपेक्टिव ऑफ द पॉलिसी होलिस्टिकली, मुझे लगता है कि ये शायद बहुत जरूरी है कि हम लोग जो डेवलपमेंट प्रोसेस कर रहे हैं उसमें थोड़ी सी कॉन्शियसनेस और इंक्लूड कर लें, इंटीग्रेट कर लें. अपने आप ही ये जो डिस्कशंस पॉइंट हैं वो आई थिंक दे विल बी good enough in terms of taking care of these issues and challenges. For example, if we look at the climate responsive architecture, more or less most of the cases, if we look at the curriculum, जो कि हमारा आर्किटेक्चर डिजाइन करिकुलम है, इट इज ट्रीटेड एज ए ऑब्जेक्टिव प्लस सब्जेक्टिव कंपोनेंट. बहुत सारे जगह पे जो ऑब्जेक्टिवली प्लेस्ड रिक्वायरमेंट्स हैं वो चीज अवेलेबल नहीं हो पा रही हैं. ये एक सब्जेक्टिव सब्जेक्ट की तरह लोग इसको अवेयरनेस मानते हैं. क्लाइमेट रिस्पॉन्सिव बोलना बोल करके और फिर किसी भी डिजाइन को क्लाइमेट रिस्पॉन्सिव बता देना, दिस इज समथिंग दैट इज कंसिडर्ड एज ए स्मार्टनेस. बट कहीं ना कहीं हम सब लोगों को कॉन्शियसली इस चीज को करिकुलम का पार्ट बनाना चाहिए. हमें इन सब चीजों को सब्जेक्टिव के साथ साथ इसको कहीं ना कहीं कुछ एक चेकलिस्ट या ऑब्जेक्टिव तरीके से इसको ट्रीट करने का पोर्शन करना चाहिए. जो इश्यूज हैं दे हैव टू बी हाईलाइटेड वेल. जो अवेयरनेस है, जैसे आई रियली अप्रिशिएट कि एसोचएम ने इस सब्जेक्ट को इतनी तरीके से हाईलाइट करने की कोशिश की है. It should be made a mainstream discussion point because until हम इस सब्जेक्ट के बारे में बातचीत नहीं करेंगे, this subject will always be neglected. और कहीं ना कहीं हमारी जो इंडस्ट्री है, जो कि एयर कंडीशनिंग और जो रेफ्रिजरेंट बेस्ड इंडस्ट्री है, this will certainly be discussing more towards the green refrigerant and other aspects जो कि शायद मैकेनिकल सिस्टम गवर्नड है. अगर वो चीज अवॉइड हो सकती है विद रिस्पेक्ट टू दीज एस्पेक्ट्स, इंटीग्रेटिंग द लेट्स से क्लाइमेट रिस्पॉन्सिव डिजाइन, आई थिंक दैट विल बी हाफ बैटल वन सिचुएशन. तो दिस इज द करंट प्रैक्टिस जो कि हम लोग देखते हैं इन जनरल ग्राउंड पे कैसे चीजें चल रही हैं. नाउ द वे फॉरवर्ड, बिकॉज दिस इज माय थर्ड पॉइंट इन सजेशन, if we look at the efforts, there are a lot of efforts which are being put by the development authorities, by the central authorities, urban development department, even the market-based mechanisms like rating agencies like ASSOCHAM. All of us, we talk about the passive architecture, passive design features, climate responsive design, but ये सब चीजें implement इतनी सही तरीके से क्यों नहीं हो रही हैं? What is the reason? Somewhere we all need to discuss, deliberate, and we need to have a continuous dialogue among all of us, and it should go to the public also. Somewhere they also are aware. ऐसा नहीं कि सन का ओरिएंटेशन सिर्फ हमें पता है. They all aware about this as a basic fact. और कहीं ना कहीं जैसे गवर्नमेंट की तरफ से अगर हम इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर फैसिलिटीज की बात करें, they need to work on the material database. They need to work on the climate database. They also need to work on the embodied energy of the material database as well. Because as an architect, if we don't have such information available in my region, then how will I justify the effort which is only based on the design? Because कहीं ना कहीं डिजाइन के साथ साथ जो BOQ items हैं या item specifications हैं, they also play an important role. कहीं ना कहीं जो bylaws को बनाने वाली जो agencies हैं in each and every state, for example in case of UP, we have a very specific department. In case of Punjab, we have very specific department, town and country planning department, which prepares and assures the bylaws to be built, to be designed as per the let's say climate responsive design. ऐसा क्यों है कि वो bylaws में इतनी सारी चीजें highlight नहीं होती हैं? ऐसा क्यों है कि हम लोग सिर्फ ऑफसेट कितना है, हाइट कितनी है, रोड विड्थ कितनी है, ये सब चीजें ही हम लोग डिस्कशन करते हैं? व्हाई डोंट वी अपरेंटली डिस्कस मोर टुवर्ड्स द एनबीसी 2016, जहां पे बात करते हैं कि हम फ्लोर वर्सेस ओपनिंग्स कितनी होनी चाहिए? ये सब जगह पे, बहुत सारे जगह पे जो डिजाइन है, दे डू नॉट कंसीडर एज ए बेंचमार्क्स. और वो लोकल बायलॉज में भी इस तरह की चेकिंग आज के टाइम में भी नहीं हो रही है. दैट इज समथिंग दैट इज माई अंडरस्टैंडिंग एंड माई पर्सपेक्टिव. तो कहीं ना कहीं बायलॉज में ऐसी इजी टू इम्प्लीमेंट चेकलिस्ट जरूर होनी चाहिए, विच हेल्प्स द अथॉरिटी टू इम्प्लीमेंट दीज बेसिक फीचर्स. और कहीं ना कहीं टाउन एंड कंट्री प्लानिंग डिपार्टमेंट की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है कि जो लोग वहां पे जा रहे हैं, दे कैन चेक कि जिस हिसाब से डिजाइन में विंडोज का साइज है, वो विंडोज के साइज ऊपर नीचे ना हो, घटे बढ़े नहीं. ये सब इंपॉर्टेंट है. और जब तक ये सब चीजें नहीं हो जाए, मुझे लगता है कि शायद जो हम अभी बात कर रहे हैं कि बायलॉज में पैसिव क्लाइमेट रिस्पॉन्सिव डिजाइन का चेकलिस्ट हो, तब तक शायद कहीं ना कहीं हम सब लोगों की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है, जो लोग घर बनाने वाले हैं, जो लोग रेजिडेंशियल डेवलपमेंट की बात करते हैं, दे नीड टू रिलाई ऑन आर्किटेक्ट एंड सर्टेनली आर्किटेक्ट हैज टू जस्टिफाई द रोल। इन्हीं शब्दों के साथ मैं अपने डायलॉग या स्टेटमेंट को विराम देता हूँ। थैंक यू सो मच एसोचेम, जिम एंड ऑल द पैनलिस्ट हियर।
Thank you, Mr. Anurag. That is awesome. Like you started with a point that when you are the fifth speaker with so many eminent speakers, how you will handle it, and you handle it very well. You put some points across that is really an eye opener for all of us. So the basic points, what Mr. Anurag emphasized on was the natural architectural buildings was there before the contemporary buildings, and there is then the population demand increased almost 8 billion people on earth right now, so the lifestyle is different, the adaptability is decreasing, and he tried to show the direction towards the loopholes, how and how we can fix it through his suggestions. So that is really a good approach. It has to be a part of a mainstream discussions, yeah, completely. So that's why ASSOCHAM is making all its movement, all its emphasis on sustainability through its GEM certifications program, through all the webinars regarding water, regarding all the 5 elements of nature. We conduct it time to time. So this is a wonderful sessions. So thank you again, Mr. Anurag. Next slide, please. We can go to.
Thank you, Shubha.
Thank you. So I would like to introduce Dr. Arvind Dhingra. He's a faculty in charge GNDEC Ludhiana. He has done his PhD from NIT Kurukshetra in an area of power quality. He did his graduation from MNIT Jaipur and MTech from PTU and MBA from IGNOU. He's a certified energy auditor from Bureau of Energy Efficiency. So we expect a lot of energy efficiency measures. And he has conducted several energy audits, notable being the UNDP sponsored project for upgradation of energy efficiency of steel re-rolling mills in Ludhiana cluster. He has to his credit over 80 technical papers in various international national conferences and journals. He has delivered many expert lectures on energy auditing, energy conservation, power quality, motivations. He is a life member of IE, Kolkata, ISTE, IEEE, Punjab Science Congress. So thank you, sir. Welcome to you. And the desk is yours. Thank you. We cannot hear you. Can you please unmute yourself?
Sorry.
Yeah, now you're audible.
Yep.
Yes.
Right. And
Yeah.
the slides are also visible, I believe.
Yeah, slides are visible. Just we need full screen mode.
Yeah. Right.
Thank you.
So good afternoon, everyone, and the elite panelists with me. It's really a pleasure to be in such a gathering and talking on climate responsive architecture. I would just go through the slides first, and then I'll put off my point of view. My co-speakers have already shown some of the buildings wherein they are climate responsive, but they have not gone back to the era beyond the Mughal era. So let me go back a little more and let us see what we have. This is one of the temples built in 2500 BC. Shri Shri Vidyashankar temple. It has got 12 pillars which surround the mandapa with figures of 12 signs of zodiac. You can just see out here. And they are built in such a creative way that the rays of sun fall on each of the pillars in sequential order of the months of the Hindu calendar. So it is per month. So it is a climate responsive building, just showing how the climates are changing. Another example is the Vittal temple. Here, all 12 pillars are made of same granite. But each pillar, when you strike, produces a different sound. Again, an architectural marvel. Again, it has been standing for over number of years, 2,500 years, more than that. Another example of the old buildings which have taken over or which are basically mesmerizing in architecture is the Madurai Meenakshi Amman temple. Here, if you see the central hall of the temple, it is called as the 1000 pillar hall, but it has got 985 pillars in all, and there is absolutely no echo inside it. Whenever you speak out here, there is no echo, and it is well lit also. You can just see here without the lights also, it is visible, and the sound levels do not go beyond 40 decibels. So such riches are architecture. Another example, the Kopeshwar temple. Here, the Swarg Mandapa has a visible vestibule open top. We are trying to create some kind of buildings nowadays wherein we have got this kind of top which is covered with some kind of transparent cover, and the sanctum is conical, and the ceiling is semicircular with matchless engravings. This is again an example of architecture. Another example is the Meenakshi temple. If you see, it's a perfect example of sustainable architecture. The temple has a rainwater harvesting system built more than prior to the Mughal area. Not even a single drop of water of rain falling on this particular temple goes waste. It goes into a pond located inside the temple. So we had climate sustainable buildings. Another example, standing example of an inverted temple building is the Rani Ka Vav, which is located on Saraswati River. Saraswati River, as we all know, is nowadays, as of now, is not visible. It says it is an invisible river. This is one of the oldest and finest step walls in Gujarat. Steps lead down through the multiple levels with lines of carved pillars, each having more than 800 sculptures. The step wall is made in the form of an inverted temple, highlighting the sanctity of water. So we, from the beginning, from the mythological eras, we are all going towards, or we were all inclined towards the climate sensitive buildings. Now, just moving down to the modern era, we have got some buildings which show the Indian architecture in present day's light. We have got, we have divided the Indian scenario into 6 climatic zones. If we talk of hot and dry climate, which is in Jodhpur, the example is of the Solar Passive Hostel in the University of Jodhpur. It was designed by one of the leading architects, Vinod Gupta, and the building was an attempt to test as well as exhibit the methods that would provide thermal comfort in the hot and dry climate of Rajasthan. You see, the temperatures here rise up to 50 degrees centigrade. So it had to be made such that the inhabitants do not feel that much of heat. The building houses 14 double-room suites as accommodation for married students. The suites are split between the first and the ground floor, which is partially sunk into the ground to take the advantage of the natural insulation of the earth. So again, standing example. Another example from another climate zone, which is warm and humid. If we talk of Mangalore, this is the Silent Valley Resorts. It's an eco-friendly holiday home that consists of several cottages which were constructed with a herbal theme. You can see the landscaping around it. The resort fuses modern demands with ecological balance by creating a sustainable habitat with minimum footprint. The cottages adopt circular plans as well as forms, which helps reduce solar grains from the building. Again, another example from a moderate climate area, Terry SRC building, Bangalore. You see, this is another example of modern architecture set in this climate. The design depicts the interplay of 5 elements of nature. As my previous speakers have already highlighted, Bhagwan was the acronym given by Nagendra sir. So air, water, earth, sky, and fire with built form to attain oral. Yeah. So one of the architects is here. Jasim Roy is already here. So they are saying. So built from the to attain oral, thermal, and visual comfort. The simplest measure taken to tackle the climatic conditions was the orientation of the building, which is along the east-west axis. So building orientation again is playing an important role. Another example in the cold and sunny climate in Leh is the Degree College and Agricultural Complex in Leh Ladakh. The institution is built on a rectangular site that is along the north-south direction and is surrounded by snow-capped ranges on all sides. The individual structures are oriented in various directions and treated specifically based on their orientations. However, the building on the north side of the complex have thick walls to minimize the heat loss, and those on the south maximize the heating and daylight distribution. And just see how beautifully it has been designed. Another example in the cold and cloudy climate in Spiti is the Sarai for Tabogompa. It's located in the picturesque valley, stands at a height of around 10,760 feet from the sea level. It's a mud monastery, has a fort-like appearance. You can just see it like the Killa, with thick walls and buttresses built of pressed clay and rubble masonry. The monastery complex comprises of a group of beautifully mud brick structures that have defied many centuries of destruction inflicted by both man and nature. Here the climate is really harsh, so it has just stood the weathers of time. So that is what we are looking at nowadays. So before I say thanks to everyone here, you see what is required from us is that we need to integrate, we need to build upon our history in our mythology and take tips from them and integrate them in our modern building designs so that we have got energy efficient buildings. We have got umpteen examples to show the Peda building, which is the 5-star building in Chandigarh. We have got Hereda building in Haryana, again, almost net zero energy building. So there are a number of examples to show, which we have got here. And it is really a topic which needs a little more of introspection, a little more of application, in fact, I would say, so that we are able to have a truly climate sensitive building. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to be here. I would request the organizers to take over. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Dhingra. So it was very swift and clear, you know, I mean,
Thank you.
yeah, the introspection that starts from before the Mughal era.
Yeah.
So before going forward for new kinds of buildings, we are going backward. So the same granite, different sound in Vittal Temple. There is no echo with 90-85 pillars in Meenakshi Temple. As an example of that, acoustics examples, rainwater harvesting, and it stood the test of time for 2,500 years.
Yeah.
We must congratulate the designers that time. And there is Solar Passive Hotel, University of Jodhpur. They are implementing it. Kind of, there is Silent Valley Resorts, eco-friendly holiday home in Mangalore. Mud monasteries. We can think of a monasteries made of mud in the harsh climate, which stood the test, completely tested and verified. We have so many examples, not one or two. There are couples of examples. There are thousands of examples probably throughout India. So we have to observe the historic values, go for the introspections, and come forward with the better solutions for the urbanization and the commercial era. Right now, that was the message from Dr. Arvind Dhingra. So thank you, sir. So we would move to the next presentations. Mr. Mani Khanna, co-chairman of GEM Events and Expo Committee, GEM certified professional. He's a BE certified ECBC master trainer, GEM CP, GRIA CP, Solar PV TOT certified trainer. He is working in energy conservation division of Peda Chandigarh. He is graduated mechanical engineering from Kurukshetra University, has done his PG in environment and sustainability development from Delhi University. That shows his emphasis on sustainability aspects of architecture. He has more than 7 years of experience in green buildings, ECBC, building commissioning, energy daylight simulations as well for national and international projects and other building energy efficiency projects. He is involved in successfully green buildings projects throughout India and other code compliance projects like ECBC. He has organized more than 80 capacity building training programs on building energy efficiency alone and involved as ECBC master trainer, as I told you before. So he's associated with many societies like ASRAI, ISRE, FSAI, IAE, MP, IPPCA, India, IPA, mostly covering all the elements of nature. So I give the desk to you. Over to you, Mr. Mani Khanna.
Right. Good afternoon, sir, and thank you very much for your introduction. And first of all, I would like to congratulate GEM ASSOCHAM for organizing such a brilliant session and taking such an initiative, which is the climate responsive architecture. And I also would like to thank each and every panelist for sharing and deliberating each and every point in respect of the architecture, design, construction, and the planning part also. And the next part that I am going to cover is the ECBC green building and a way forward for net zero energy buildings. So in respect of the time, I am not sharing my presentation and just deliberating few of the points that we need to carry out for designing and construction of energy efficient and sustainable buildings, which is a way forward. Being an architect, being a mechanical engineer, electrical and civil engineer, we all need to sit together as an integrated team, and we need to formulate an approach while designing and at the planning stage once the building is going to be constructed. So what are the steps that we need to take it at the planning part, at when the building is going to be designed, when the building is start putting on the papers. ECBC, I'm sure you all are aware, ECBC Energy Conservation Building Code. This is a code designed and formulated by Bureau of Energy Efficiency, Ministry of Power, Government of India. They have launched this code in 2007. And Further, the updated code is launched in 2017 by Independent State Minister, Minister of New and Renewable Energy, Government of India, in which the objective and to make the mission is design and construction of net zero energy building with the incorporation of passive design strategies, renewable energy, so that we can compensate whatever the energy is being consumed in the buildings, that we can compensate it with the renewable energy or energy conservation, so that we can compensate our energy consumption with the energy generation. And I'm sure you all are aware, ECBC is now mandatory in more than 15 states in India. It was started from Rajasthan in 2011 to 2021. More than 15 states and UTs have taken an initiative, and they have notified this ECBC code in their building bylaws, and they have also mandatory once the building will be approved. Once the building will be approved by the Department of Town and Country Plannings and the Department of Local Bodies at each and every state from where the building getting approved. So they have made it mandatory. Once your building will be more than 100 kilowatt connected load and the building having conditioned area more than 500 meters square, that the building have to have compliance with the ECBC requirements. And whatever the ECBC covered, that is all have been covered by Charanjit Shah sir, Dharkar sir, Baga sir, Nagendra sir, and Rag Bajpai sir, and each and every panelist before me have already covered each and every aspect that is required to consider in the designing and the construction part. Majorly, we need to focus over passive design strategies and the building planning part. Once the building will be planned and building is going to be constructed, we need to focus over major natural resources. That is the thing that we are forgetting these days. The major point and major things we need to remember is the natural resources. Natural resources we covered: natural air, natural light, and natural sun, which is available with us, so that we can generate more and more energy with the renewable energy sources like solar, with the help of solar PV panels. Natural air, which will be helped for the cross ventilation and the air circulation inside the building, so that we can reduce the air conditioned systems or which are emitting carbon emissions to the environment. And the third is the natural light. We need to harness maximum natural light so that we can reduce our dependence upon the artificial lighting that we are using in the buildings. So in addition, for the construction side, when the building is going to be constructed, in the lighting part that we all know, we need to use the LED lighting, because in the last 4 or 5 years, the things have been changed. We are going to and we are shifting on the LED lighting. And in addition, we can integrate the sensor-based lighting, which can also reduce 40 to 50% energy consumption in the buildings. For the air conditioning systems, we need to dependent upon more which are non-refrigerant air conditioning systems. As Dharkar sir already mentioned about the radiant cooling, which is one of the most energy efficient solution if we can implement in our buildings as a energy efficient building. And in addition to radiant cooling, there are geothermal cooling, evaporative cooling system, multi-stage evaporative cooling system that we can incorporate in the building, in addition to the cross ventilation and natural air circulation in the building, so that we can reduce our dependence upon air conditioned buildings or air conditioning systems. So these are all points that we need to cover while designing and while construction of energy efficient building. This is the ECBC talks about, and there is a minimum requirement that have been defined. Yes, if you will use in anyhow air conditioning system, whether it will be split or window, we need to use 3-star, or if we are using the LED lighting or any lighting in the building, we need to have make LPD as defined under ECBC. LPD, which would be in the office building, it should not be more than 1 watt per square feet. So these are the minimum standards, minimum requirement that have been defined under ECBC, and it is also been covered and mandatory notified in the state building bylaws. Once any architect, building client or owner that is going to design in any building, they have to have mandatory implement the ECBC requirements. And in addition, all the state government, mostly in India, all the state government have taken an initiative to notify the green building incentive policy in the states. Like the building, all the rating system have been incorporated where government is providing incentives. In many states is 5% extra FAR, in 10% extra FAR, the building approval, you can get building approval as early with the incorporation of green building systems. So these are all have been initiative. And the next is the way forward is the net zero energy, net zero carbon, net zero water, net zero waste, so that whatever you will consume in the building, whatever the energy, whatever the water will you be consuming in the building, you must have an appropriate other alternatives in the building itself, so that you can generate. In the water, you can achieve with the reduce, reuse and recharge. In the energy that we have already discussed, whatever the energy is being consumed, it should be compensated with the energy generation or with the help of renewable energy or the energy conservation. Like in the another factors, we need to achieve the net zero so that we can achieve a net zero mission that have been defined under the UN goals, the UN development goals, sustainable development goals, and we all can make integrated design approach, and we all need to design and construct energy efficient building. That is all I must encourage and motivate each and everyone who is participating and attending this session. And we all need to develop a sustainable energy future to respect and to protect Mother Earth. Thank you very much. Thank you very much again, GEM ASSOCHAM team.
Thank you, Maniji. That's great. Actually, this webinar is on what climate responsive architecture, and 5 elements are a part of it. It's all about the 5 elements, and energy is a part of it. The fire element and the energy conservation building code ECBC. It's really a blessing for all of us that India developed this code, and Mr. Mani Khanna, he completely elaborated it in a very good way, that how we can do the energy conservation measures, how India is helping, India government is helping, all the states are helping in getting the energy conservation measures. We want to be self-sustainable in terms of net zero building, in terms of net zero water, in terms of net zero everything, all the elements of nature. That's what our approach is, and that's what we are targeting right now. That's it about being a climate responsive architecture. Thank you very much for that. We'll go to the next slide, please. So here I would like to reiterate the fact that we have ASSOCHAM GEM Green Building Certification Program, and we did take a master class for GEM certified professionals. So we have already registered 1,000 plus GEM certified professionals. So far, it's increasing day by day. The century-old organizations, ASSOCHAM it's recognized the professionals, faculty, students through GEM certification professional program. Once they clear the examinations, this course is for free. You can we can tell you the details. We can send you the details by email if you can give us the register with us, and you will get the certifications after you clear the exam. And this thing completely bundles, packages everything, all the elements of nature, how to optimize, how to conserve, how to reduce the stress on nature. So that is our goal for sure. That's why we are organizing this webinar. And thank you everyone for being here. So please go for these certifications. Please go for being a certified professional. It will help you in many ways, not for being just getting the certifications or anything. It will help you in many ways in your career as well. If you are a student, it will help you in the career development. Sustainability field is now emerging. You can see so many eminent speakers are in this field. So it is not a small thing. Even before a decade back, maybe it was a dream for us when we entered this field. There is not much scope, but right now there is sustainability engineering. There are careers growing up. There are companies for this. There are energy conservation companies. There are water conservation companies. There are water audit, energy audit, and a lot of things are coming up. So if you want to give a try to how the sustainability looks like, and you also want to contribute towards the nature and Mother Earth, then please be a GEM certified professional. Thank you for that. And I would like to move to the next slide right now. Introducing Architect Dinesh Bhagat, Co-Chairman GEM Punjab Chapter, Senior Architect Technical Education, Government of Punjab. Architect Dinesh Bhagat is a Senior Lecturer in Department of Technical Education, Government of Punjab. He is currently posted at Government Polytechnic College for Girls, Ladwali Road, Jalandhar, Punjab. He is also the Co-Chairman ASSOCHAM GEM Punjab Chapter and Joint Secretary IIA Punjab Chapter. He passed out from Chandigarh College from Architecture in 1992. He has 29 years of rich professional experience with 21 years of teaching experience. He has designed and executed projects for PSU, government sectors, residential, commercial, institutional projects, all kinds of projects related to sustainability in Punjab, Himachal, North India, Nepal, and a lot of other places. So, sir, over to you for the vote of thanks. Would you please illuminate us? Yeah, thank you. Sir, we cannot hear your voice, sir. Yeah.
Good afternoon.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to propose a vote of thanks for contribution of each and everyone who have made this webinar a memorable event. We would like to express deep gratitude to ASSOCHAM, ISHRE, FSI for giving us this opportunity to meet and exchange knowledge, and special thanks to all. We would like to convey thanks to Subrata ji for his welcome note, and special thanks to Shah sir, and above our Dharkar sir and his wonderful presentation. We are thankful to our expert speakers, our very own Surinder Bagaji and Engineer Vivek, Anurag Vajpayee, and their nice presentation. And above all, when Neeraj ji, who had joined us, special thanks to them. We are grateful to Engineer Manihanna, Professor Nagendra, and entire team from LPU and other colleges like GNDEC Ludhiana with total support, LPU, Indo Global, and Chandigarh group of colleges along with Sakar Foundation, Chandigarh. For conducting this program, we are grateful to all the office bearers of IIA Punjab and Chandigarh chapter for supporting the program. Our special thanks are due to all of you for spending your valuable time and faith for us. Thank you very much. A deep gratitude due to all of us and you, and for your deep support to this program. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dinesh ji. That was a great one. Yeah. So we have a kind of video for thank you note, and you can see that yes, this event was literally an eye opener from very different way of understanding. Maybe it's passive, maybe it's urban. It's all about nature. It's all about how to implement the aspects of nature into our buildings and make a better future. There are a lot of charts, there are a lot of questions. There are more than almost 400 participants today joined us. And thank you all the participants for being with us. And there are a lot of questions as well. All of the questions, I think most of the questions were answered through the different speeches and presentations. So if you have any kind of concerns, you can just shoot us a mail. We are a step away from you. And thank you very much for being with us. Take care.
Thank you.
Okay. Amit ji, you can close this session.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.